Hello, welcome back to Wonders of the Force, the Star Wars podcast. My name's Phill, of course. I'm joined, as usual, by Dave for our weekly Resistance breakdown. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, my brother in the Force. Looking forward to this one. I really am.
Same here. Unlike the last two episodes, this time we both come on actual with energy, going, yeah, we actually want to talk about this episode. Of course, last week's episode, we didn't phone our energy in. We still love it, but we had issues with last week for sure. This time round, no problem. Dave's been hounding me since the episode up. Okay, Phill, have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet? Because I
really
hadn't had the chance to. Of course, yesterday being Sunday, of course, for me, it's American Football Day, so I'm like, I will just watch it later. I have time. And because I watch it, I'm like, oh damn, this is good.
Yeah, I wasn't lying. I promise.
No, for once, it's a case of like, yeah, we have really enjoyed this one, and I think George may have enjoyed this one, but we'll see. We yet to hear his opinion on this one.
Well, who knows? I'm sure he will tell us in full detail exactly what he thought. Whether it's better or not, another thing altogether. Exactly,
George is the opinionated one here when it comes to Resistance. We are well aware of this fact. But hey ho, Clone Wars is around the corner next year. Mandalorian, we've got Rise of Skywalker, we've got. There's bound to be something he loves, so we're all good.
Absolutely.
And of course, his boy Kylo Ren will be back in this at some point. So,
he gets a lovely call without actually being named in tonight's episode as well, which I thought was nice.
Does, but also this episode finally gives us a bit of timeline information as well. We've been sorely lacking.
Yeah, it was nice to get that line. We'll just jump into that now. We'll just say we kind of get told by, what's the lady's name here that he meets?
Micah Gray,
that the Supreme Leader is out looking for ancient Sith relics. Now, the best thing we know about that is if he's now Supreme Leader and she knows, this is no longer a kept secret, so it hasn't just happened. So we're not in the territory of The Last Jedi. We are definitely after that. And
yeah, we very clearly moved forward from that point in the timeline. I mean, of course, we have our little hints here and there. I mean, the Hux's speech in the first season's a definite indicator of where we are. Hosden Prime means destroyed everything else. The aftermath of that again in this season gives us a bit of a hint. So there are hints here and there without explicitly stating. This is one of those hints, but it's a much larger hint of, no, the timeline really has moved forward. We're in a space now that we haven't yet explored. So this is very much, here's episode, beyond episode 8, here's before episode 9, because we know there's a year between the two. Yeah. So as we've been saying, it's that meat on the bone between the two of them that we won't get all our answers before Rise of Skywalker comes out, which is only 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Oh my word, that's craziness.
It's been a year and a half since we've had a Star Wars film, and it's coming. It's coming, boys. But yes, there's 4 weeks to go. We know that we'll have a mid-season break, a couple weeks. They're giving us this meat on the bone right here. And yeah, I love this episode. It's not only, as I said, does it give us that little bit of timeline, but also gives us an inclination as to what the First Order are up to during this point. Because again, between 7 and 8, there was no gap. It was just a continuation. Between 8 and 9, we know there's a year, but without there being any material released at the moment between those two periods for obvious reasons, apart from Resistance Reborn, we have nothing really to go on. And that's all about the Resistance side of things, not the First Order side. So this gives us a much better idea of the First Order side of what's going on.
Absolutely. It was just a really nice pickup, as I say, from the last episodes that haven't been myself. Certainly the last episode, I wasn't that impressed with at all, which I think came across quite well, and which I didn't like in the last one. But this really did pique my interest, and I sat down to kind of watch it and go, you know what, let's give this one a chance after last week. And I was completely enthralled by this episode. Really, really enthralled.
Indeed. And we haven't talked about too much about what happens in the episode yet, because we're going to run through it in just a second. But there are some things in the episode that we both really want to talk about. There's some really cool stuff that's happened in this episode that gives us a lot of talking points. Dave, would you like to do the honors of running us through this week, or should I continue the honors and continue running us through?
If you want to go through it, because I said I haven't written down and go off what I've got in front of me, but if you want to take it as normal, I'll start it off. So, Captain Dozer sends Kaz, Tora, and Freya on a supply run to Asher Ree. Kel and, is it Isla? I can't remember how to pronounce her name. Kayla, sorry. They pay Kaz a surprise visit, and they want to go to get off the Colossus. They've been there all that time they haven't left. Apparently, they've just been in that big room with the tortoise guys, just sat around, not getting off planet. So they want to get off there, and they're really intrigued by getting off. I think at one point she says, "Look, I haven't seen trees or grass or anything in since they've got to the Colossus." So that was a really nice move for them to kind of take her on there. So she does say he's going to get into trouble if he does, but he wants to sneak them down to the planet with them. They're going to the planet. This one was for supplies. So we've had fuel, we've had food, and now we're on to supplies for the ship. And they're going to this planet thinking that it's an outpost, so there should be stuff they can buy. Upon landing, though, the village is absolutely deserted. They go after the two kids run after some beautiful butterfly-like creatures. They're called Parvinoths. Parvinoths is what they are called on StarWars.com. And while they're there, Tara spots some warning written on the wall. "Beware, evil, get away," is what it says in Orbish on the wall, which is cool. Kaz, Frey, and Tara split up and agree to gather what they can and meet back within an hour, which I always find weird that Star Wars has time the same way we have. It's just a weird
True, it's the same with Doctor Who, whereas the Daleks have the concept of rels, which is the exact same as an Earth second, just purely out of coincidence. Yeah. Yes,
but it was a nice touch. So it kind of gives you a really good idea without having to go into parsecs and all sorts like that. So Kaz gives chase to the kids, and they followed the butterfly creatures into what looks like a temple, and they call it a temple of the Force. So they don't go out flat out and call it a Jedi temple yet or a Sith temple. It's just known as a temple of the Force, which is nice. What I love about
cool back to the Rogue One there as well.
Yeah, and what I do love about it is that Kaz admits that he's never really believed in the Force, which I found first watch massively intriguing that he said it. And I've watched the episode again, and you think, of course not, because I think we discussed this on the Mandalorian episode that we had. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch episode 2, chapter 2, The Child. Our video on that is up online. But yeah, I found it really intriguing that Kaz didn't believe in the Force, even though he's with the Resistance as well as a spy, so Leia's there. But I'm guessing the Force has kind of vanished in the background, like Rey says in The Force Awakens that she thought Luke Skywalker was a myth. So I like the way that's still building on that essence of the Force is something that's not, even though the Emperor was in charge, the Force and things weren't big players in that.
Well, no, he hid it as much as possible.
So I found that really intriguing. That was one of my favorite points at the start of the episode that Kaz came out and said
get into that.
But while they're in there and they're looking at it, they're looking at all these different insignias and things, and they actually hear someone crying out for help. They do run further to the temple. They find themselves at a corridor of black and red, very foreboding and Sith-like. Before a door closes, separates Kaz and CB-23 from the two kids. Without warning, someone zaps Kaz from above, so he gets looks like red force lightning, like we've seen with the temples in Rebels, like that sort of color. And really dazed him, but he was very much drunk. That's how it came across to me. Like he was just in another place. It was really funny. He played it really well as well. So he still makes a way moving slowly forward. There's mysterious objects. It's like on top of an altar, and he actually hears a voice. As Kaz, he goes to touch the relic that's there. The floor comes up beneath him, and he falls.
Ignoring all the pleas, by the way, of don't touch it. Whatever you do not touch the relic. If you see the symbol, just touch. I want you to touch something else. Don't touch the relic. I got this.
It might as well have had a big red sticker on that says "Do not touch" with a button for him to play with. It was literally like a kid at Christmas. Like, don't you touch that? And the first thing he wants to do is, I'm a bit drunk, so I'm going to touch it. I love that moment. But yeah, so while they fall through into the floor and they're trapped below where they were, they finally meet someone who emerges from the shadows, and that is Mika Gray, her name? Is that right? Sorry, Mika Gray, so it doesn't sit in my head yet. You get these names in Star Wars as we go through that don't quite catch straight away.
Oh, I watched the credits and wrote it down just so I can remember. Yeah. Something I was going to forget.
It took me ages to get Poe Dameron in my head. That was my first one from The Force Awakens I couldn't quite get into, but yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, so they are looking at this relic and talking about it, but back at the landing site, Tora and Freya load up, but they radar detect some incoming craft, and she's like, have you ordered extra ships to come? I think they're expecting more of the Aces, but no, it's not. It's the First Order on their way to cause some bother. Meanwhile, the mysterious captive of the temple reveals that they're not an ancient Jedi edifice. They are actually in an old Sith temple, which is awesome for us to be back in a Sith temple again. And I liked how they gave the information that, yeah, Sith temples were always often built. They were underneath Jedi temples. Jedi temples were built on top, as a symbol of the Jedi rising above them, which I really liked as well. Really nice pictures that they're giving across.
Purification by repression.
Yeah. Look at that. Boom. Dropping lines. That's why I love Phill doing this. She has actually excavated the ancient building, which causes the village people, the populace, to leave. And she's been trapped in there after they've all darted. Kaz's new acquaintance is most displeased when the clumsy pilot accidentally triggers a deadly trap. The room starts to spin like one of those fairground rides where you plush to the side and can't move because the G-force is very much, this is how that room's going, and that's the effect it's having on them. Kaz calls for CB-23.
With an added meat grinder in the middle as well.
yeah. That all right. There is that element that you wouldn't normally get at a fairground. You could get absolutely mashed to bits. But the two kids do come to the rescue, and they do actually deactivate the chamber. Now,
because of the rule of two, which I love. I love that little nod to it.
It is. We'll see. We're going to get through this, then we're going to go on these little points because there was so many brought up. It was really cool. Safe from the treasure hunter, it takes the relic. She'll make sure that no one else gets a hold of it. It actually explodes, so it looks completely useless as to what she wanted it to do.
Well, we haven't got to that part yet.
Oh, that's where I am in my breakdown. Sorry, sir. You take me through.
Well, don't forget they get out of the temple. The temple itself starts to collapse around them when Kaz again leans on something he should never have leaned on. This is the whole thing. The kids get them out of the hole, and he's just like, "Oh, thank God for that!" Leans on another symbol because you need to find the symbol of the star and find its counterpart. You have to press both at the same time. And then Kaz gets out of this hole where CB-23, who had gone and found Kel and Ayla, manages to get them out. Kaz goes, "Oh, thank God, it's all that leads on another symbol." The whole temple starts crashing around them. They then leave the temple to then discover Tora and Freya have been captured by the First Order and these new relic troopers.
Yeah, they are absolutely awesome.
Get to the
First Order Raiders. Now we get to the actual the actual relic itself. It gets destroyed. She destroys it so no one else can use it. But it looks, I mean, Phill and I both thought it was a holocron when we saw all the build-up and things like that. Kind of hinted towards that. It looks very much like it's going to be a holocron. It is different in style to what we've seen before.
Yeah.
But it certainly should just as a weapon. She doesn't say exactly what it is. But yeah, then we get these specialized troopers that are hunting down the relics for not just the First Order. They're looking for these for Kylo Ren himself. And at that point, she actually mentions that the Supreme Leader is looking for these old Sith artifacts. So though the ship has been I fell behind. I do apologize. Phil, can you put the picture back up of her with the holocron type weapon?
Yes.
Though the ship's been destroyed, the woman from the temple seemingly vanishes, and soon after the raiders capture Kaz, Kel, and the other child whose name I can't pronounce. So Ayla. They see I can do that. As interrogation begins, the temple explorer calls the troopers, holding the artifacts. They demand she hand it over, so she obliges, activating the relic, and that's when she throws it towards them.
That's when it becomes holocron-esque grenade.
Yeah, the holocron grenade is exactly what it was, sir.
Yep.
Kaz and his friends run to the temple for comfort as the relic unleashes waves of energy, destroying the First Order raiders and literally dead raiders.
Yeah.
Quite brutal. It was really cool.
Kentucky Fried Raider for sure.
Mysterious woman tosses the now useless object aside and reveals that her name is Mika Gray. Her ship is gone, and Gray leaves with Kaz and the group for the Colossus. Aboard the shuttle ride home, Ayla, I can't do her name at all. Ayla asks Mika about the Force. Gray says she's not a Jedi or a Sith, but explains the Force does not belong to any one person, which is awesome callback to Luke in A Last Jedi, saying pretty much word for word the exact same thing.
And also Kaz in episode 7 when she's talking to Finn. So I'm no Jedi, but I know the Force.
Yeah, and she says that it's something that's inside of all of us. We just find it in different ways, which again, I love that line as well. It comes out so well. And for me, it's that callback to Luke again, and it's the same way he's saying it. So that was really cool. Basically, Kaz is sitting at the front of the ship, and he's just listening really intently to the way she's talking about the Force. And it's like he's learning now for the first time as well that this thing exists and starting to maybe take an interest in what's going on around that.
Yeah,
and at that
although
point,
he's part of the Resistance, he has not met Rey.
No, not at all. Yeah, the closest he's been to someone with Force is Leia, who he's only met very briefly.
And although she is kind of trained in the Force, she doesn't use the Force.
She's not a wielder, more of it. Yeah, she just has the ability.
Not until she's Mary Poppins.
That's an awesome scene to watch.
It is an awesome scene, but at the same time, like, that's the only time we ever see her use the Force.
Absolutely.
So Kaz may have heard of the Force, but it's legend, it's a myth. It's something to him that, I mean, like Han says in episode 4, he never believed in it. Han was alive during the Clone Wars, and he still didn't believe in it. And that's, again, purely because, well, the Jedi weren't around everyone. Yes, there was 10,000 of them, but that's in a galaxy of hundreds of billions of people.
Yeah.
You're not going to see a Jedi every day. And those who who were on war-torn planets, saw one Jedi per clone battalion, maybe a few more. But the biggest mass grouping of Jedi was on Geonosis. So unless you're Geonosian, you're never going to have seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to that level, certainly. But yes, that's where kind of our episode ends with Kaz taking Mika. And I think she's now
our issue ended with last episode. We don't have any issues with this episode. This is good. We
no issues with this at all. It was glorious. The more actually talking through it again now, and it just rattles my head. And I think, you know what? I like this episode even more than I did before I started this. I really, really got a lot out of this episode. And yes, that's where we finished the episode. And wow, just from where we were, this is back up there with the first 2 episodes to me. It really is.
Oh god, level. This is back on par. This is back on track. Yes, this is a filler episode, but this has so much meat on the bones. Unlike the last 2. I mean, the first one, those are the last ones we had, which was with the training side by side. I know you have your issues with it, but I like that there was something to it.
Yeah.
The next two creature features was just basically a repetition, and it was just, we didn't need it. We needed more of this. This, yes, is Phill at the same time. You now know where you are on the timeline. It's probably about a month or so after episode 8, is what I said to you in our chat. I reckon it's about right, because again, they're not going to close to episode 9 just yet. And if he's hunting down relics, it'll take a while. And by the time you get to 9, he probably has hoarded a few. And don't forget, we see them destroy something in that trailer. I'm still very adamant, by the way, that that's Vader's helmet on top of that statue. I know you two will disagree with me, but when it's proven in the cinema, I will be going, I told you so. I will point us back to our episode and go, I told you so. And if not, I will eat humble pie. That's the way it is.
More popcorn than humble pie, to be honest with you, at that time of night.
This is probably true. And energy drinks, because we have got episodes to shoot. We've got a lot to do. We're got a very busy day. It's going to be amazing, but we've got a hectic day ahead of us that day. But that's not the point. Awesome. So again, it kind of gives us a bit of where we are on the timeline. And on top of that, it then gives us additions to... apologies there, that's my smoke alarm. My parents are back home, and that's not done well because someone's now burning something. That's not the point of all this. What was I saying? Yes, so we also then have more meat to the bone when it comes to what the First Order have been up to. This is an episode, yes, okay, it's about the Resistance crew. Yes, it's about Kaz and Tora and Freya and Kel and Ayla. And yes, it's about them finding Micah Gray. However, this is about the First Order. This is about Kylo Ren putting his foot down and kind of putting his stamp on the First Order, what he wants them to be. It's no longer just this military organization that wants to control everything and be a dictatorship. It's now him going, no, now that I'm in charge, we can change our directives to bring me the Force. Bring me these relics. It's like Vader in Rebels, hunting, the Inquisitors, hunting down the relics, bringing them. The Emperor wanted to collect them. He now wants to collect them, which again could lead into the Emperor in episode 9, but again, we get to see. But so all these points bring together. And I love the callbacks to that rule of 2. As I said, when they're in a temple, Kel and Ayla, to save them, have to press 2 symbols at the exact same time. Remember, Ezra and Maul couldn't get into the temple without each other's help. So again, these nice little callbacks to Malachor and to Rebels, but also to the wider Star Wars universe. I loved it.
I just thought it was so cleverly done that it hinted to the larger story without actually having to give direct pointers in the story as well, by saying this is about that. If you've seen this overlying arc of Clone Wars to Rebels to the movies to the Resistance, you know exactly what they're saying when they talk about the symbols and pressing 2 things together. And it came together so well it just made you kind of sit up and think, oh, okay, this is where we are. And I never expected this episode of Rebels to get this episode of Resistance to this sort of level in that area. I never, ever, in all the days of watching it, thought we'd get this much out of an episode.
Agreed. Also, I like the fact that Star Wars, Marvel tried to do this, and Marvel have been semi-successful with the way they have tried to integrate their TV shows and their movies. They've not done it fairly well. I mean, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff and the ABC TV shows have kind of linked, but it's very tenuous. The Netflix stuff never got integrated, which I thought was a shame. So the wider MCU, they've had issues. Now they got Disney Plus, they're going to start to do it, and that's okay. Star Wars, with the Clone Wars, Rebels, and Resistance, along with the books and the comics, really has the story group. Basically, the story group's got to thank this. Dave Filoni, Kerry Hart, and the rest of the story group is who we had to thank for keeping everyone on track by going, this is our overall plan. You know, you have this bit here, here, and here, but here's how you can link them. It's a subtle link, but those who have watched everything will get this. Those who haven't will just think it's cool.
Yeah.
If you have not seen Rebels, if you have not seen the Clone Wars, you will still understand what happens in this episode. You won't understand the rule of two necessarily, or why you have to have two of them pressed at the same time. But you don't need to understand that for it to work. Whereas those of us who have seen it all go, oh, and make those connections, make those links. So, yes, again, it's a show for the younger audience. And of course, this introduces Peril, this introduces a new character, this introduces cool relic troopers. It has that cool factor. For the young audience, it has the visual part of it, which the last two feel as though they've been just for that visual impact. This has substance to it for those of us who have been following those overall arcs. I think it's very well done.
Oh, amazingly well done. I loved the imagery of going back to a Sith temple, like you say, we haven't seen since Malachor. I loved all the writing on the wall and everything that was so close to that.
Well, the interior is very similar to that temple we have on Malachor. Those glowing runes and everything else. It's why I thought that was going to be a holocron.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I thought exactly the same when I saw it until she said it was a weapon. And who knows if that means it was still a holocron? I don't know if that's what it was, but
I don't think it's a pure weapon. I mean, they wouldn't be hunting down a pure weapon, I don't think. I mean, maybe they were, but I think it's more than knowledge. That's all of this is about. Everything that's ever been about in Star Wars is knowledge. Knowledge is power. And the Sith understand that, I think, even more than the Jedi do. The Jedi know that too much knowledge isn't good for you, whereas the Sith want to understand everything, which is why they look at all facets of the Force and why they're drawn to the dark side. The Jedi go, no, you cannot read this. Whereas the Sith go, here's your lightsaber stuff. That's cool. No, what you want is this. That's the dealer on the side of the corner. That's the candy man in the van going, hey, you kids want some dark side? It's that kind of look at it, but
not from a Jedi.
Exactly. It's that whole point of, well, you never heard this from a Jedi, but you can hear it from us. It's just brilliant. It's a really subtle way of looking at it.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about this episode. And the introduction of, StarWars.com is a really good source if you want to have a look at some extra things about this episode. Some really nice things were brought up about it. And they have said that this collection of Force relics, Sith relics, is something that's going to tie into the future of Star Wars going forward. Now, we know that means Episode 9, which is why I think you might be more on the money about the Vader helmet than I did before, because of now they're saying, look, these collection of these ancient Sith relics, that's what's happening, and you should know that going into this. And yeah, there were some really nice things, like I think the stuff they said about Mika Gray, that this had
Asajj Ventress would have become if she had survived into this era, which tugs at my heartstrings. I love Ventress far too much, and the fact that this is what she could have been, just like, why not give me more of a Ventress?
But I love the fact that they even had that character in mind, that if Ventress was about, this was her character, where she would have gone to. She would have been like this relic hunter going around, maybe not even collecting the relics, but destroying stuff so it couldn't then be back in Sith hands. But yeah, I just thought that of keeping all these characters that they've built so much in canon and alive inside the stories, that even now they're using someone else entirely, that it's a callback to a character we've already met as well. And the work that they're doing, like you said, the story group in building this, it's just amazing. Honestly, the smile again, Mandalorian, I didn't stop smiling for. This episode of Resistance, I have not stopped smiling for. This is, again, I know I said just a little bit before, talking through it made me like it more. Talking with you about it now, again, makes me want to just, after this, I'm going to go back and watch it again because I really want to take it all in. It was so good.
Yeah, there's always points to add to it. I mean, let's just talk about the Relic Troopers for a second. I want to talk about these bad boys right here.
And specifically created for this as well. Episode, these have not been seen before. This is their debut. So we may see them again at some point, maybe in a film coming out in a couple of weeks. But this is their first appearance and literally, made for this episode. I love it.
I mean, first off, the design. They look so cool. They just look wicked. I love the fact that also the Sergeant has the orange pauldron, similar to... First Order Troopers have it. Also the original Stormtroopers. It's just a lovely little callback, and I think it's wicked.
The design work on all the troopers for the First Order, from being a bit jarring when you first time you see a Stormtrooper, you're like, oh, that's quite away from the design of our classic Stormtroopers. But everything is lined up so well for the First Order in their design, from their Stormtroopers right through all of their garrisons of troops. That the design is so fluent across that it's a really nice move. And these guys you would put them and go, yeah, of course they're First Order troopers. They fit right in.
It's very much a design language when it comes to it. It's very much a design language. Absolutely. And the First Order really, the Empire dabble in that kind of fascist look, shall we say? I mean, I have my Battlefront 2 Inferno Squadron behind me, as I always do. It's a nice little background. It's not much, but at least it's something. And it is akin to other symbols we have seen in real life, but it's also not directly taken from that, and there's a lot of comparisons they make not without being direct. Whereas the First Order really lean into it. They are really gunning for this whole... The Empire was one step. We could take it one step further. We think that they didn't do enough, and Hux is really on about that. He really does believe that all power is powerful, and it's just really... I love the demeanor, I love the look of the First Order, I love that design language that you get from them. But it's also going forward again, looking at the design of the temple itself, look at the design of Micah Gray and all the just look at the characters and the universe they've set in this just one episode. It's just brilliant. This, unlike the last two, so it was a bit meh, this really isn't meh. This is just so good.
Yeah, and it's up there in the top. I mean, as I say, of this series, this is probably now my second favorite episode behind the first time we get to catch up with The Last Jedi and what's just happened there. So I really like this. I know what I do love this now, because obviously in The Last Jedi, we get Kylo Ren who's saying, look, we need to just get rid of the Sith, get rid of the Jedi. We're going to start again. Me and you, Rey, we're going to do a thing together and it'll be fun. I don't know where I was going with the other word, but yes, it'll be a lot of fun. That now he's after all these Sith relics. Whether he's now taking a turn and say, right, if Rey's not going to join me, bring on the Sith, and I want to learn more about that. And I hope that's kind of where that's leading. That he's kind of embraced the Sith more of rather than wanting to destroy it like he did.
Well, I think now that Snoke is out of the way. I think he thinks now, like, Hux was taking orders from Snoke and kind of belittling Ren. Now that Ren has just gone, who do you think is supremely announced? Not you, it's me. Just so you're aware, I will snap your neck unless you bend the knee. It's that kind of Game of Thrones level of, unless you bend the knee, I will kill you.
Yeah.
And he has no qualms about doing so. He would just go, no, you're gone. And I think now this is him imposing his will on the First Order. I think we'll see much more of that in Episode 9.
Yeah.
The Ice Planet and everything else, I think it's all going to be, again, the Death Star 2, I think is all going to be driven from the point of view of Kylo Ren wanting to finish what Vader started. Again, going back to Episode 7. And part of this is, again, he wants all that knowledge. So, yeah, of course, he's probably created this division of Trooper specifically, since Snoke's demise, specifically to go, okay, well, my training wasn't complete by Snoke. I want to complete my journey myself. I need help in getting all these things. Right. Here's my new division. You guys go out to all these locations. Here's the Empire's records. Go and find them. Because the Sith, the First Order has access to those records. Yeah. R2 did as well, which is how he managed to have that map that eventually led to Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
The Empire, the First Order doesn't have all the Empire's records, but they have enough that they probably have the records on locations of the Sith temples and things, which is how he's got this knowledge. Or maybe Snoke gave him some. Again, there's bits and pieces everywhere. And we know from the comics as well that Snoke takes him to Dagobah. So we know there's extra bits there. We know that he's probably told him about locations and things. So it's probably not a surprise to the smaller audience, the wider audience. It might be a small surprise, but he's created this division specifically for that. And I'm interested to see, we know we've got the new TIE Bomber coming with the First Order with this series. We know we've got other troopers, the Sith troopers. I mean, where do these Relic troopers tie into the Sith troopers? I mean, that's something we're yet to see, but I am fascinated as to how those two go together.
Yeah, it's going to be a really nice touch, because if you thought that maybe if they were on this sort of mission, the Sith troopers might have been where they would have gone for this episode, but obviously this was made in advance of Rise of Skywalker, so they probably didn't have the designs, just very much like they didn't have the K2SO designs for Rebels, and then when they saw it, said, oh, well, that awful droid that sings out at the side of the back of ships would have been a K2SO droid. Wouldn't
have made it any better.
Which
is why I love it in Solo when that Star Droid gets run over. It's like, oh, my vindication. Oh,
a little bit of me cried happy tears at that point.
Yes, yes, I did.
But yeah, going back to this, I thought it was also really nice that we got a member of the Aces joining in with the mission as well.
Yeah, Freya, yeah.
Yeah, they're sorely lacking in the amount of time that we've spent with them, and I think that is a shame. I know we've got an episode about racing coming up, which will be full of the Aces, which is nice. But I thought it was nice to include one of them as a member of the away team to try and to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking forward to that per se in terms of I want more story than fluff, and that will be pure fluff. But I mean, it'd be cool to see them flying. But yeah, I want them more involved. I mean, the training mission was there for a reason. I want to see them in peril. I want to see another fight with the First Order. That's what I want to see. They've
kind of been underutilized since they did that. Whereas you feel they should have been more involved with certainly the two missions that we had, even the creature features themselves. They should have been more about the Aces, I think, because this series when it started, you've got to remember that this was sold on. This was a story of the Aces. This is all about racing on a platform, and we know Star Wars trailers lie to us. That's what happens. Rogue One, I'll always remember. But that
was slightly different.
Yeah,
they changed,
but everything. It is one of those things that I would have liked to see them more and more involved as the story and gone on. Especially now you said they've had the training, so you've got to imagine that outside of that episode they're having more and more training as well to be fighter pilots rather than just racers. So I'm intrigued to see what comes from them in the remaining, what we have now, 13 episodes left? 12 episodes left. So we are building up towards the end. It's going to come through really quickly. It's building up, and if anything like this episode happens again, we're in for an excellent ride.
Oh, you know they're just going to build on this. You know, I mean, yes, we have the racing. I think we've got 19 episodes total, 12 left. I think we've got 3 episodes of fluff left.
Yeah, sort of fillery, move on a little bit, but they're just big bulk of story and the rest.
12 left, break it down. I reckon we've got 3 that are filler left. I think that gives us 9 episodes of storyline. I think that's probably the breakdown we expect, so a quarter.
Yeah, so we have to, I mean, especially towards the back end, where you're going to get the last sort of 4 or 5 episodes, it's all going to be about finishing up the story, which is, I think they're going to be really, really good stories as well. I can't wait to see how this all plays out. It's nice them having a finite episode, so they know they're going to finish. It's not like, oh, we're going to finish, but we might do another series. This is it for...
Yeah, unlike Rebels, which was a case of the bombshell dropped to us that Series 4 was going to be the last season, when we knew that they could do 5 with the timeline.
Absolutely, even though some people say it was going to be the last... I don't know who guessed. It was just, that was fine. But it's just, it is nice that they've got this finish point, and I think it's a good 2 series, is a nice space for this animated series. I don't think they could get a lot more out of it, and I don't think they want to go past where Rise of Skywalker will finish. I think that's the main thing. I think
if we didn't have Clone Wars coming back, we would have had a 3rd season of this. But I think the money had to go to Clone Wars.
But I do think that we will get, I think as well as that, I think a big part is Rise of Skywalker is finishing off not only the Skywalker saga, but we're kind of finishing out movies in that era, I would have thought, along that timeline, along with those characters in the background in places. I think we're very much going to move away from that going forward, where we'll meet brand new characters who aren't involved in this way at all. I think it's going to be a nice big move away from it. And I think that's another reason why they're setting up on more than 2.
We know we have a Star Wars movie slated for 2022. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but we can guarantee you that it won't be anything to do with the Skywalker saga era of films, be it the Age of Republic, Rebellion, or Resistance. Those 90 years, whatever it was, the span between 1 and 9. That will be your lot for that particular era, with the TV shows and both animated and live action set in that space. Yes, the exceptions to the rule will be Kenobi, Mandalorian, and Cassian. We will have those shows set in that era, but even Cassian, we know, will probably only be 1 or 2 seasons, purely because of how close it is set to Rogue One, how close Rogue One's then set, of course, to Episode 4. We know that Cassian dies in Rogue One. Spoiler alert if you've not seen it, but by this point, if you haven't, what have you been doing for the last 3 years? I mean, seriously, guys. Anyway, not the point. Point is, those will be your lots within what's coming up. We know that in the story group's minds, they have a finite space for these particular shows. Kenobi, probably 1 season, maybe 2, but I think it's
1 shot, maybe 2. If it does really well, I would think they could probably do a second one.
Depends on the storyline. It depends.
It depends how far they take it in the first series. If they build that 8-episode arc over
6.
a couple of days, like they could build it like a really
6
tight
episodes.
story.
Yep.
6 episodes, sorry. Yep. They could build that in a really tight story where you cover a couple of days in the life of Kenobi, which I think is probably what will happen. I don't think we'll travel much further than that. No. And the way they're looking at The Mandalorian, the first 2 episodes, again, really tight together. You're not getting a delay between the episodes. They're running right into each other, which I really like as well. But Mandalorian, I think, as well, and we'll jump out of kind of Resistance just for a few minutes, it looks like, again, you could watch that and not kind of be involved in the Skywalker timeline. We know it's set after Jedi, but
we have years of timeline between.
Yeah, we're not going to touch onto that side of the story. I don't think this is very much a separate story. Although
they could take it from whatever demise of the Empire is left to the First Order encroaching into wild space and into the Outer Rim, and him then having to deal with the First Order and bounties from them. You could have it stretched for a good 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons, depending on the storyline, depending on what they want to do with it and the budgets and what comes up next. So The Mandalorian is the one show where I'm like, I'm not going to give it a timeline, and I'll give it an amount of seasons because I know that this, at the moment, it actually has scope for quite a few. Kenobi would be probably 1 and done. Cassian, 1, maybe 2 and done. So that's 2 years worth of programming done just there. By that point, you'll get the new movie that's set in 2022. By that point, they will have planned an animated show, at least 1, if not 2, for what happens after that, plus TV shows that tie in. So we know that 2022 and beyond, we will have canon coming. There'll be new books, there'll be new comics. I mean, don't forget the books, the comics fill out so much space within that timeline. I mean, we're just finishing up the space between episode 4 and episode 5. We're now about to start next year. The gap between 5 and 6. I've got a whole year or 2 worth of comics for that coming up, maybe even more, let alone all the extras to chuck it alongside it, not just the main story of Dr. Aphra and Darth Vader, because it's just the 3rd serial for Darth Vader, which, by the way, are the best comics they've made. They are just brutal. If you want to read Vader just be enthralled in a Sith that's hacking things to hell and high water, just read that. Vader Down, by far, hands down, is the best comic I've ever read, purely for the one panel where he's absolutely surrounded on a planet. He goes, put weapons down, and you're surrounded. The only thing he goes is, I'm surrounded by fear and dead men. He knocks his lightsaber. Next panel is just them all dead. It's just brutal. Go read that. I know that's not why you're here, but just plug in the comics because they're just brilliant. So just giving you an example of what content around the Skywalker saga we will have, we know it's limited. 2022 and beyond. So this will take us through 2020 into 2021. 2021 into 2022, we're building up to this new trilogy, and they'll probably have an animated show out in that to kind of give you a build-up. It wouldn't surprise me if they go, here's a show set in this new timeline to give you an idea. So we will have content coming up between that. So it's nice they have got these 2 seasons just for Resistance, and I think by the end of it, they won't go past episode 9. They'll have it just before Rise of Skywalker to end it all out.
I would have thought that'll definitely be the way we finish out. But yeah, I mean, just jumping back to this episode, for me, right up there with the best episodes, and I'm putting this alongside episodes of Rebels and some of episodes of Clone Wars. This, for me, was a real high point in storytelling and growing the story without moving massively forward, but just imagery and what was said and thoughts. And I just loved this episode. I really, really did.
Well, there's no Mortis God, so it's absolutely fine. I'm fine with that.
We're going to talk about that one day.
We are going to talk about. We will have our Clone Wars content coming up. We've got some stuff planned behind the scenes for Once the Force. We talk about the Clone Wars in the lead up to next year's final season, which I already have gripes with purely because I know that they're retreading with the. They just finished up the lost episodes. So at that point, you go, cool. That's a huge chunk of your episodes done. So what's new will only be like 4 or 5 episodes. Like, oh come on, really? You couldn't just give us just brand new content and finish those episodes up for Disney Plus, could you now? I mean, they might well do actually.
You never know. There's stuff and there's scope, but now Filoni's heading in the direction of more live action. I would have thought he's done such a good job with Favreau on Mandalorian. I do see Filoni's future moving more towards the live action than the animated.
Maybe, but I think that they'll create a specific live action division. He'll head up both. I think he may not
Lucasfilm one day.
Yeah, he should do. He is the rightful heir to the throne. He really is the rightful heir to the throne. I mean, if anyone knows anything about Star Wars, it's Pablo Hidalgo needs to be his right hand man. But Filoni will take over. Pablo Hidalgo will be his right hand man. Kiri Hart will end up taking over the animated division. Someone else will do the live action division. We'll all be good. It's got plenty of Star Wars for years to come. Kevin Feige will have his own stuff coming out as well. You know that's going to be good.
It's crazy.
My friend, we have survived this era of uncertainty in Star Wars, and now we just know that give it 2 years and all the content will be ours.
It's going to be amazing. It's all coming thick and fast, and again, just tying into it even more now is Resistance, which made itself, to me, a much more relevant show just based on this episode alone. It brought it into the timeline really well. It told the story it needed to really well. It's introduced a new character who is all about talking about the middle ground of the Force, which is amazing that they're going to bring that in, which that's really never been part of the show. Brought up Kaz not knowing about the Force. There's just nuggets throughout this episode. And if you haven't seen it or have watched it once, go back, watch this episode again. It is really, really epic.
It is an absolute cracker. Also, if you want more of my in-depth knowledge on Star Wars and my rants about it, again, watch our episodes. Trust me. This is just a minute of the fraction. I can just go, and here is everything. Go.
And we'll bring some of that to you in a future point.
Oh, we will indeed. But to tie this episode up neatly, very much looking forward to the next episode. This episode's been great. Not quite. What's the title for next week's episode?
Don't know. Didn't have it ready, but
there.
We're sure it should be online if you go to pages where you would find that kind of information. But yeah, I mean, it is great that the series is coming thick and fast. We are going to be back again, Phil and I, covering this series as we talk right the way through it. Like we have done with, well, we did just a roundup of it, series 1, but we've been talking about series 2 since it started. And that's something that we really enjoy doing. It's nice when we have a debate about the episodes as well, when we have differing opinions, but it's great when we have this mutual admiration for episodes as well. I think that really, really helps to kind of I know last week, if you watched it, it wasn't much of a talking about the episode because we both really weren't overly keen on it, but you know what? This has changed that, and I think it's really nice.
Next episode is Rendezvous Point, and that does look good because that is what is it? It is right here. So Dozer attempts to meet a resistance pilot from his past, but the pilot has been captured by the First Order. That's the description we have for next episode. That should be good. Again, being more the First Order, being more captured, again, seeing what happens. Maybe we can see more of Tam. We don't know. See more of her decision, her storyline. This is going to be good. Leading up to the break before, I mean, we've got 19 episodes, so I reckon 2 more, and that'll be the break.
Before the mid-season. I think we will either get 2 or we'll get 3 running just literally the week before Rise of Skywalker, and then we'll stop before Rise of Skywalker comes out, and then we'll come back probably in the spring. Yeah, because
Mandalorian kind of irritates us by having an episode the day of release as well. Like, this is just...
Well, I think that's obviously the only thing with that. Obviously, that's day of release for the US market. We will be seeing that on Wednesday midnight going into Thursday. So we will have a video up just after we come out of that screening.
Oh, we're going to have like 3 or 4 videos back to back of us just caning them to, like we do when we do Star Celebration, where Dave, George, and myself are all here for 4 days straight going, "Hi, it's day 4 of Star Celebration. At this point, my eyes are dead. Welcome back to Wands of the Force." It's that kind of by that point. Although usually this time I was at tournament as well, so even harder for me. It's like, cool, I have to do Wonders of the Force stuff, and I have to do the world's largest X-Wing tournament all at the same time, and I'm not even feeling great. Great! Let's just crack into this.
It's going to be great. We've got a lot of content coming around that, especially say with Mandalorian out on the same day as Rise of Skywalker, but we'll get our video out on that. We, as we always have, we'll put it out on Saturdays. We will be talking about Rise of Skywalker. I say we'll put something out there once we get out of the screening. We'll just be putting down our thoughts on what we thought of the actual film. We'll not be putting any spoilers out there because we're not those guys. And we'll then have a spoiler review probably come out over our festive break, because just to let you know, guys know, once we get towards Christmas, we will be discussing as a group, the three of us, when we will be taking a break, because we're going to have time off with our families over the festive period. So we'll have an actual breakaway. But I think during that time, we will have recorded our spoiler review for The Rise of Skywalker, and that will be the show that will come out. It'll be a pre-record, and we'll release that during our downtime.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, that's the thing. With Wonders of the Force, we have our Monday show, which is our Resistance Breakdown, our every other Wednesday show, a fortnightly show, which is our main news show, and general Star Wars chit-chat show. Well, on the Saturdays, we'll have our Mandalorian show. We'll have the Clone Wars coming up next year, which will take in one of those two slots. We'll have plenty of basically between now and whenever Star Wars is done or whenever we're done, which isn't going to be any time soon. I mean, don't forget, in 8 or 9 weeks' time, it'll be our 3rd year anniversary for doing this show. January 17th will be our 3rd year. We'll do something special for that. We'll do another commentary of some sort. This thing, we've got specials planned. We'll bring back our list videos to add in more content as we go along. They've taken our hiatus purely because, well, we have, as I said, the Mandalorian show on the Saturday. We have this show on a Monday. Dave and I don't really feel like doing a show on the Sunday as well to tie in all three of those, as well as our fortnightly show on the Wednesday. But we will have more content coming up for you guys, as Dave alluded to, over the winter break. We will, of course, have our little break, but we'll work it all out. I mean, the Star Wars show, Star Wars content for us never dies. We have our chat. It's always going on constantly. I mean, we always say, I'll talk to you later. It's probably going to be then the next hour of the chat. Something will come up somewhere. Fallen Order content will be coming. I'm sure Dave and George will be on that together doing that themselves. I can't do that, but purely because my PC isn't powerful enough to run it. At least I am fully checked. I might be able to sneak it in somewhere, but I'll see. But for now, those two will be doing something to do with that. I'm sure of it. We'll have much more content coming up. We've got a lot coming up. We're excited. But yes, next Monday, join us at the exact same time. We'll be talking about Rendezvous Points. That's Season 2, Episode 8.
And yeah, just a massive thank you again. Want to put it out to those people who are watching, who are liking, who are subscribing, who are listening to the audio podcast. Each week, our numbers grow a little bit more, and we get a little bit more involved in the community. It's amazing out there, and just again from all of us, a massive thank you for helping the podcast itself grow. It's really nice that it's starting to build up a little.
Indeed. So there's always less time for me to say is thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at One of the Force of Star Wars Podcast, at the Force Podcast. You can find the show later on YouTube, both on our channel and on our Facebook page as well. You can find the audio at Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. The link for our merchandise is down below for Teespring. Just search OWTF, which is a bit of a shame, but I do love that one itself. And that's about it until next time. So we've One of the Force. May the Force be with you. Good night.